Alright, so it's Jimmy, Hines, Tommy, and Faison.
So you noticed Jimmy was stabbed?
Yes.
What did you notice about Ryan Hines? Did you observe? Did you get an opportunity to observe him?
I didn't see him at first. He was actually the last person I was informed was stabbed because I believe he was in the house when they had realized he had gotten stabbed.
And what did you notice, if anything, about Jimmy?
I began to tender aid to him along with Sal Perry, and upon realizing how severe his wound was and having to see him struggle for his last breaths, I had to take myself away from the situation and sat on my back steps and waited for law enforcement to get there.
And you said you called your father. Was any parents home?
No, so my mom was on a trip in Cape Cod, and my dad had left before anyone came over because he had plans for the night.
And at some point in time, did law enforcement actually arrive?
They did.
And when they arrived, did you speak with law enforcement?
I did.
And did you give a statement in regards to this case?
I did, yes.
Subsequently, did you observe what, if anything, was going on with withdrawn? Did you notice if AMR or EMTs arrived on the scene to render any assistance?
They did, but I believe the cops were there first.
And after the cops arrived, the AMR came?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall what the scene was like when first responders got there?
It was very hectic. At that point, there was some siblings, parents, and a lot of concerned family members that had actually lived close by that had gotten there before. So it was just more people showing up because everybody was coming to check on either their loved ones or their friends.
Now, after you gave an initial statement that night to police, did you give a subsequent statement to the police?
So
were you interviewed more than once in relation to this case?
I was, yes.
And why were you interviewed more than once in relation to this case?
There was something in my original statement that night about me seeing the defendant with the knife or not that they called me back in to clarify.
Okay. And did you, in fact, do you recall what you said to the police originally?
I think I had said that he was flashing a knife or something, but I had to go back in to clarify that I actually never saw the knife.
So why would you have said in your original statement that he was flashing a knife?
Because somebody else had said that they had seen him flashing the knife.
So you were just kind of reiterating what somebody else said?
Correct.
Let me have a moment, Your Honor. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Attorney Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, no objection. No objection.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness and show
Yes, of
him the
course.
exhibit that's marked for ID? As I understand it, there's not going to be any objection to
There's
this.
no objection from the state, Your Honor.
All right. What is the exhibit number?
Exhibit number is Defense A.
Okay.
You want to just make it full? You want to make it full?
Yes, I've moved to have it made a full exhibit. Your
All right.
Honor.
Court
No
will
objection.
accept into evidence Defense A, full exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Rich.
Good morning.
We've never met before.
No.
I am going to show you, if you'll look here on the screen, what has been marked as Defense Exhibit A. Can you see that there on your screen?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I think that's kind of upside down, right? That's more the orientation it should be.
Yeah, that works.
That's sort of the same orientation as the one that's behind you there, that Exhibit 1. Would you agree this is a larger map of your neighborhood?
Yeah, I would.
So I'm gonna walk behind you, just so I can get this exhibit down here. When we say a larger map, that's in reference to this Exhibit 1, right?
Correct.
That shows the entire neighborhood, so to speak.
Yes.
The one here on the screen, Exhibit A.
Yes.
And so would you agree, Mr. Rich, that your neighborhood is made up of a couple of through streets, or streets that run the whole way through, and then there are a number of cul-de-sacs or dead ends that come off of those through streets?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Is Adams Drive one of those through streets, or is that a cul-de-sac at some point?
No, it's a cul-de-sac at the bottom there.
Okay. Is Laurel Glen Drive also a cul-de-sac on the either end?
Yeah, on the very end of it, it is.
Is Farmhouse Lane a cul-de-sac, or is that a through street?
No, that's a through street.
Okay. Now, you know that because you're familiar with this neighborhood and have lived there for how long?
Since I was about 4 years old.
And I want to go over some of what you've been telling us today. You agree some of what you told us today you've never told anybody else before, right?
No, I wouldn't agree to that.
You would not agree to that? Who else did you tell about the can of WD-40?
I have told the state's detectives, and whenever it has been asked about, I have been telling them about it. Correct.
Whenever it has been asked about?
Now, so that was something that I couldn't fully remember the night of, having the trauma of everything else. It was more so the main event of what happened on the front yard. That was something that had come back to me later on, but as soon as I had remembered it and was in any kind of interview again, I had brought it up and told them about it.
Would you be surprised to learn, sir, that that did not ever appear in any of the statements that you gave prior?
No, I would not, because as I said, those statements were prior to me being able to remember that.
Gotcha. So you've remembered it now, today?
Yes, and prior to this.
You didn't remember it when you gave a statement on May 15th at 12:43 a.m. that you wrote in your own hand, right?
The following day?
12:43 a.m. on the 15th, that's right.
No, I did not.
And that was your own handwritten statement, correct?
I believe so.
Didn't mention the can of WD-40 then, did you?
No, because I hadn't remembered it.
Right. You spoke with Officer Nimhard. You didn't tell him anything about the WD-40 can, correct?
When was that?
Also on the 15th of May.
No.
And then again on the 15th of May, when you spoke with Officer Giddon, you didn't mention anything about this can of WD-40, did you?
No, so on the 15th of May, that was not something I had recalled.
And it wasn't something that you recalled when you spoke again to Officers Bitko and Staples at 11:25 a.m. with your father in your living room. No mention of that can of WD-40, correct?
Not that I recall, but what day was that?
The 15th.
So yeah, anything on the 15th, I had no recollection of that on the 15th.
And then again, when you spoke with Officers Bango and Iannotti on the 18th, because they wanted to clarify, as you said, your statement, you didn't mention anything about the WD-40 at that date either, did you?
No, I did not.
But you're telling us about the can of WD-40 today.
Correct, because once I recalled it, I have not tried to hide it or anything at all.
Okay. So you were telling us that this party at your house began sometime in the area of 7 to 8 o'clock that day on the 14th, correct?
Yeah, around that time.
You were hanging out in the basement, correct?
Correct.
What was going on in the basement was maybe drinking a few beers, right?
I definitely know I had one or two, and I do know that there was other kids drinking as well.
Okay, so it wasn't maybe drinking a few beers, there was beers being drunk,
No,
right?
I said I drank a few beers.
Right. You said that maybe people were drinking a few beers.
No, people were drinking a few beers. There was
Definitely drinking a few beers.
definitely had a few beers, yes.
You yourself only had one or two?
Yes,
You sure about that?
I'm positive.
How are you so positive about that?
Because I know I didn't drink more than that. It was my making sure that everything stayed under control.
Well, when you say everything stayed under control, you were 18 at the time?
I was,
So you were breaking the law by drinking those one or two beers, correct?
yeah.
But you considered that to be keeping things under control?
I mean, we were dumb high school kids. I think everybody's had a few beers in high school, but I think I also had everything in control until the point where the defendant and the car full of his friends arrived at the house.
Gotcha, it was all under control until that point. Did you tell your folks that you were going to be having this party over at the house that night?
No, I did not.
Mom was going to Cape Cod,
Yes,
and Dad was out somewhere.
yes,
You told us that you had a few folks there that you identified. One of those was Faison Teal.
correct,
Another one was Tommy Connery,
correct,
Ryan Hines,
correct,
and Jimmy McGrath.
correct,
And you said that as far as those four folks go, these were kids that you had all grown up with, played football with, friends with, correct?
correct,
And the same goes for Ricky Fiola. You grew up with him. He was part of your friend group, and you played football together.
correct,
Sal Perry had been your best friend for a long time.
correct,
Michael Sampieri, just a good friend for a long time.
correct.
And then you told us that one kid who was there that you didn't really know was the first time you met him. That was Alex Burnson, correct?
Yes, it was.
Alex Burnson came with Tanner Chernowski, right?
Yes.
How did you know Tanner Chernowski?
I've grown up with him around the same mutual friends, and we went to high school together, but we are friends, yes.
You were due to graduate that May, correct, or that June?
Yes.
And Tanner Chernowski, he'd already graduated?
Yeah, he's the year above me.
Alex Burnson, he'd already graduated?
I don't know.
Tommy Connery, he had already graduated?
Yes, he did.
You told us that you also knew Griffin Marcinzik, correct?
Yep.
And you learned somehow, you told us, that Ryan Hines had been, as you described it, jumped earlier that night, correct?
Correct.
But you told us you hadn't learned anything about a group chat that was going on.
Correct. I had no idea that there was any text messaging being sent back and forth. All I knew was that they had come to my house, Ryan and Griffin, and I was told that they were having Tanner come get them with his friend Alex.
And that everybody was already there except for Tanner and Alex, correct?
So Tanner, Alex were the last two that showed up, and obviously before them it was Griffin and Hines.
And so at that point, before Tanner and Alex show up, there were about 30 people at your house.
Total, yeah, there was about 30, but I would say probably only 18 to 20 of them were boys, and there was probably about 10 to 12 girls who obviously didn't partake in anything that happened that night.
Okay. 18 to 20 boys, and then we also have to add in Tanner and Alex when they get there, correct?
Well, that 18 to 20, I would say, is with them, but if you want to say another two on top, I guess that's okay too.
Well, fair to say you didn't count the folks that were there, right?
Not that night, no.
So when you say 18 to 20 or 22, you're guessing, is that?
No, I'm not guessing. I was actually brought a list by the Shelton PD of names with about, I don't even know how many people on it from both parties, and went through it and was able to identify, I believe it was 32 total people that were there.
Okay, so there were 32
I could be
people
wrong
there.
on that exact number, but it was definitely somewhere in the 30s.
And that was based on a list of names that the police gave you?
Correct.
You didn't give them the names?
No, they had names from statements and other names that have come up through the night.
And then you said, yeah, there may have been a little bit of drinking, just beer and seltzers, but not what it was made to be by the media. What did you mean by that?
Correct. This wasn't a alcohol-fueled 70 to 100 person party. This was just a big group of friends catching back up, and we were casually drinking a few beers. We weren't throwing cans around and drinking bottles of vodka and all that. We were just casually having a few drinks.
But initially, you didn't tell the cops that there had been this drinking going on there, correct?
I'm not sure.
Well, when you spoke to them that night and gave them your handwritten statement, you didn't write anything in that statement about drinking going on at the party, correct?
I do not believe so.
Why not?
Like I said, the main focus that night was 20 minutes after a traumatic event where I just watched 4 of my best friends get stabbed, and I had unfortunately had to watch one of them bleed out in my front yard. So at the given time of that statement, the main priority was to get the key details of what happened in the front yard down.
Or to shape the story, right? To protect yourself and to protect your friends.
No, sir.
You weren't afraid that anybody might get in trouble if there was an admission of drinking going on that evening?
No, sir, but that's not under my control.
Okay, so you weren't afraid of that possibility, or you recognized it wasn't under your control and so you didn't give that up?
The cops were there, the law was there. If they felt that it was something I needed to look into, I'm not the law, so I don't know.
It wasn't something you were going to volunteer, is that fair to say?
When asked about it, I've always said that there was some drinking going on.
Okay. And then you said at some point someone showed up to the house in a Honda Pilot, correct?
Correct.
And you were shown a picture of that Honda Pilot that was State's Exhibit number 30. Remember seeing that?
Yes, I do.
That's the same vehicle that you identified for us earlier, correct?
Yes, it is.
And when that vehicle showed up, it didn't have this damage to its windshield, did it?
Where?
You see this defect on the windshield here, so where I'm pointing right to the passenger side of the vehicle?
I can't really see it, but to my knowledge, I didn't really recognize anything with the windshield.
Okay. When that Honda Pilot showed up, you told us that you were still in the basement, correct?
Correct.
And you said we exited through the Bilco doors, right?
Yes.
And when you say we, that's the 18 to 20 boys that were there in the basement?
Yes, correct.
And you went out through the Bilco doors to the right of the AC unit, correct?
Yep,
And you walked down the driveway and then you went across the street, correct?
I did.
Okay. And at this point, there were folks that were all inside the vehicle, correct? Nobody was outside the vehicle that was not with your party?
You mean the kids that came in the car were not outside the vehicle? No, they were not. They were in the car still.
And you said that you went immediately up to Tyler De Silva, who you could see through the windshield, correct?
Correct.
And that's because you knew Tyler De Silva, right?
I didn't know him. I knew who he was, and I knew of him because, as I said before, I grew up with his cousins who lived down the road from me.
Right. And you thought that you also knew his older brother, correct?
I have met him a time or two.
And you thought that you had enough rapport with Tyler De Silva that you could talk to him, right?
Correct. I thought that if anyone was going to be the one I was going to talk to get them to leave, that I would have my best chance with him.
And you told us again that at that time you weren't aware of the group chat, right?
No, I was not.
You didn't know Griffin Marcinzik was live texting this thing,
No.
taking photos.
I didn't find out about the group chat until I believe the next day or the following day when Officer Staples came to my house.
Okay. And you were standing on the grass on the other side of Laurel Glen Drive talking to Tyler through the passenger side window, correct?
Correct.
And at this point, the car is facing Farmhouse Lane, right?
Yes, it was.
And you noticed that people were arguing on the other side of the car, right?
Yes, I did.
And in fact, you told Officer Giddon that you recognized inside the car Mackenzie Trafficante, correct?
Yes.
As well as Caitlin and Autumn Murphy, correct?
I never said that.
You never told Officer Giddon that you saw Caitlin and Autumn Murphy inside the Pilot?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you know Caitlin and Autumn Murphy?
I do know who they are.
Who are they?
They are two girls that went to Shelton schools with us when we were younger, and they both also went to St. Joseph's High School.
Okay, and were they at your party as part of the...
No, they were not.
And you claim that you did not tell Officer Giddon that you also saw Caitlin and Autumn Murphy in that car?
I don't believe I did. And if I had said that, it was me saying that I had heard somebody else say that they were in the car. So that should have been clarified.
Okay, there was a lot of people talking after the fact, right?
I mean, yeah, we talked about it.
Right, everybody was trading information.
Somewhat, yeah.
And you would agree that some of that information just simply wasn't true, right?
Objection as to, how would he know?
I'll sustain it to the extent that it is broad. Counsel, if you want to limit it.
Did you come to learn that some of that information that you received was not actually true?
I guess we could say little bits and pieces, but nothing that was relevant to what had taken place that night.
Well, you told the officers that you saw the defendant flashing a knife, right?
Well, they brought me back in to clarify
You
that.
told the officers that, correct?
No, I believe I wrote that.
When you wrote that, who were you writing that for, Mr. Rich?
I was writing that but as I said before, they brought me back in to clarify that I never saw the knife, not one time the entire night.
You didn't volunteer that information later, right? When you said, gosh, hold on a second, I told those officers I saw a knife, but I didn't. I better go clarify it. You didn't do that, right?
I did do that.
You went to them and said, I need to clarify this for you?
So they had called me and told me that there was a few things in my statement that they wanted to double check. So they brought me back in, and immediately when they said, did you actually see him with the knife with your own two eyes? I said, no, I did not.
Okay. So again, that's not something you volunteered until they said, hey, we want to clarify a few things between your statements, right?
If you want to put it that way, I guess, but that was just because it was not to my knowledge.
Well, you didn't tell them that on the 15th, right?
No, I did not.
You didn't tell them that on the 16th, right?
No, I did not.
Didn't tell them that on the 17th, right?
No, I did not.
And it wasn't until the 18th when they called you and said, we need to clarify some things. We think there's some discrepancies in your statement, that you then told them you hadn't actually seen the thing with the knife, correct?
Because prior to that, I didn't even know that it was something on there that needed to be clarified. So as soon as they brought me in and asked me, did you actually see the knife? I said, no, I did not.
You didn't know that when you wrote at 12:43 a.m. in your own hand that you saw a kid named Lito flashing a knife. You didn't know that that was something that you needed to clarify because it wasn't something you'd actually seen?
No, sir. At the time when I wrote that, as I said, it was a very traumatic experience for us. I've never had to give a statement before, and I've never had to write one, so I didn't know that that was something I couldn't write off of hearing it from somebody else.
Okay, so you didn't know that you needed to tell them the truth about what you had seen?
I did know that I needed to tell them the truth. I just didn't know that I needed to clarify that I wasn't the one that saw him with the knife.
Well, and you also didn't tell them about the can of WD-40 that you sprayed at the defendant, as you say, in his area, right?
I'm going to object as asked and answered.
I'll overrule it.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Sure. You didn't tell them about the can of WD-40 that you're now telling us about, right?
On which day?
On any of these days, on the 15th when you gave various statements, on the 18th when you gave a statement.
I don't believe I did because it was not knowledge that I had remembered yet.
And you also didn't tell them that you're the one who threw the first swing at Mr. Valle, right?
I'm not sure, but I do believe that I did clearly state that I was in the fight. But yeah, it probably took me a little bit of time to remember exactly what had happened, but I did tell them that I was involved in the fight, yes.
Well, you didn't tell them that in your handwritten statement, right?
I'm not sure, I believe I did.
You don't think that you said, everyone was standing in my yard, everyone started going at it, and the next thing I saw was blood everywhere?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Right. You don't think what you told them was, everyone was standing in my yard, everyone started going at it, and the next thing I saw was blood everywhere?
I believe I did write that at the time.
Okay. And you didn't say anything about, I threw the first punch at Mr. Valle because I was trying to defend Ty Woods?
No, I guess not.
In any event, you claim that you were standing there at the front passenger window talking to Tyler DeSilva when you heard some arguing going on the other side, right?
Correct.
You looked through the car and you saw Mackenzie Traficante and Mr. Valle in the back seat, right?
Correct.
You knew Mackenzie because you grew up together, right?
Yep.
And you knew that there were other kids in the car, but right now you're not sure who that was.
No idea.
Even though you told the cops that you saw Caitlin and Autumn Murphy, right?
Correct, which was
Ended
just
up not
something
being
I had
true, right?
heard.
That was
As
something
I
else
said,
that you just heard.
there was other kids in the car. I wasn't able to tell who it was, so when somebody had said that them two were in the car, I figured that they could have been the other people in the car.
Gotcha. You figured that that's who it was. Now you know that that's not who it was because you were
Correct.
never there, right?
Correct.
But you told the cops that at the time.
I guess I did, yeah.
At this point, there's, by your estimate, 15 to 20 Shelton High kids surrounding this Honda Pilot, correct?
I wouldn't say surrounding. I believe I was actually the only one on the passenger side of the car. And I could be wrong, but to what I remember, I think I was the only one on that side of the car, and everybody else was on the driver's side between the car and my yard.
Okay. In fact, they weren't just on the driver's side between the vehicle and your yard, were they?
What do you mean by that?
They had their hands on the vehicle, right?
Some of them did.
Some of them did. Some of them were rocking the car back and forth, correct?
Correct, after a bottle was swung out of the back seat.
Let's talk about that bottle getting swung out of the back seat. You were walking around the front of the car when you saw this happen?
As I came around the front driver's side to see what was going on the other side of the car, I was able to see a hand come out the window in a swinging down motion, and I couldn't tell what it was. And then I heard the glass shatter and saw the shattered glass in the
Where was the
street.
shattered glass that you saw?
From the driver's side window, it was on the street right there.
Directly down in front of the vehicle?
Pretty close.
With these 15 to 20 people standing all on that one side of the vehicle, rocking it back and forth?
Correct, when they started rocking the vehicle after.
So you hear glass shatter,
Correct.
and then they start rocking the vehicle.
Yes.
And all 15 to 20 of those kids, by your estimate, are not actually surrounding the car, but they're all just on one side of the car.
From what I recall, I believe that everybody was mainly on the driver's side of the car.
And then, in the midst of all this shaking and rocking of the car, you say you reach in through the driver's side window over top of Mr. Snyder and grab the gear shift?
I reached for the shifter. I believe it was by the steering wheel on the column. So I reached towards it because he wasn't even considering when I was telling him to leave. So I made him see that I was going for his shifter, telling him to put his car in drive and go, because at that point when kids started shaking the car, I knew that if they didn't leave there, that this was going to turn into something bigger.
And Mr. Snyder, then, as you're reaching and leaning across and grabbing his shifter, he starts to roll up the window on you.
Correct.
You say you heard the car click into gear?
Yeah, and we saw the lights.
Okay. And then they drove up the street fast, right?
They did.
And when you say they drove up the street fast, did they drive down Laurel Glen towards Farmhouse Lane?
That's correct.
And you said as they did that, they were throwing cans and things out the windows, right?
They were.
But nobody from your group was throwing anything at the vehicle?
Not at that moment, no.
How many people were outside at this point?
Everybody that was there, I believe, was outside.
Okay. So they drive down to the end of Farmhouse Lane. Did they come back at that point, or did they stop and get out what we saw on the video?
I don't know for sure, but I want to say the first time they went down the street, they actually went past Farmhouse Lane to the point where we could no longer see the car, which is why I had thought that they left at that point. Then we were able to see the headlights coming back in the other direction, and that is when they came back for the second time after they drove away and could have left.
Was that before or after you went down to the end of Farmhouse Lane?
When I walked down, that was before.
So they drive away.
Correct. They drive towards Farmhouse. I believe they went past. Then they come back down past my house again towards Adams,
Okay.
where I believe they make that corner onto Adams.
When you say they make that corner, if we're looking at Exhibit 1, are you saying that they take a right onto Adams?
They went this way.
And then where did you see the car after that?
And then after that, it comes back down the way it just came, so I'm not sure if maybe they turned around over here or what, but they ended up coming back from the same direction that the car had just previously gone in and drove by the house again, throwing more things out of the car, including the WD-40, and that is when the car stops by Farmhouse Lane after that.
So, just want to make sure we've got your series of events down. Car initially arrives, it's parked at the corner near Adams Drive and on the other side of Laurel Glen from your house, correct?
Correct.
That's when you and the 15 or 20 folks all go outside and confront the car, right?
Yes.
You claim to hear glass shatter while there's 15 or 20 people there's on one side of the vehicle. They're shaking and rocking the car. You somehow get in and lean across Mr. Snyder, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
You get in and lean across Mr. Snyder.
No, before that?
You have seen glass shatter. There's 15 or 20 people shaking the vehicle, and you lean in across and grab the shift, right?
Yeah.
At that point, you say you hear the vehicle click into gear and it drives down towards Farmhouse Lane, correct?
Correct.
Turns around by your account and comes back towards your house, correct?
Correct.
Makes a turn, a right onto Adams Drive, correct? You lose sight of the vehicle?
I did.
How long before you see it again?
Not that long. Like I said, they had to have turned around somewhere close because it came back pretty quick.
Could you see who was in the vehicle at that point?
At that point, I believe nobody had gotten out yet because at the rate of speed he was driving before, if anyone had gotten out of that car, they would not have just been able to step out unless he had stopped somewhere else and let people out. But
If your recollection is accurate, right?
correct, but to what I would think that everybody was still in the car at that point.
But you don't know who was in the vehicle?
I
is that
do
fair to
not.
say?
That is fair to say.
And as it comes back up Adams, you say it turns onto Laurel Glen Drive, goes past the house again,
Correct.
and down towards Farmhouse Lane.
Correct.
And is it at that point that you see the vehicle stop?
Correct.
And it's at that point that you and what you describe as a group of three, yourself, maybe Ryan Hines, Ricky Fiola, or someone else that you couldn't know. So it was yourself and Ricky Fiola and someone else who you're not sure about went down the street, right?
Correct. So the only one I know that was with me was Ricky. I can't recall who else was with us, but it was definitely, I never said Ryan Hines was with me, no.
But you can't be sure that it wasn't him, right? Because there was
I
someone
can't
else.
be sure. I do know there was at least one other person, but I'm not sure who that was.
And you think it was just the three of you who went down the street, right?
I believe so.
May we see Exhibit 44, please?
It's the disc.
I'm going to ask you to watch this video with us, Mr. Rich. Can we pause it right there? You recall seeing this video just shortly ago?
Yes.
And this is shot from the Ring camera on 36 Laurel Glen Drive, which is the house down Laurel Glen Drive there on Exhibit 1 by the corner of Farmhouse Lane, correct?
Yes.
Now, in this video, Mr. Rich, do you see somebody already walking ahead of this last illuminated tree that we see there?
Over here on the corner?
I'm going to point over here. See this last illuminated tree to the far right? Just past one of the columns?
Yeah, do I see anyone over there?
If you see somebody walking right here ahead.
I can't tell.
Okay, can we start that from the beginning? And I'd ask you to focus your attention, see if you can notice that this person is walking. And do you see somebody walking there?
I do.
Do you see that there's a vehicle? We just heard doors, cars stop. And we see somebody else walking
Correct.
by the vehicle, in front of the vehicle, correct?
I do see that.
So those folks are already out of the car, and now we're hearing some yelling, correct?
Yep.
And from the left, we're starting to see your group, right?
Correct.
I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Would you agree? 4 people so far?
Right.
Now I see a 5th person coming. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you see other folks coming as well? 6, 7. You see those other folks?
I do see more, yes.
And those people are all coming from the direction of your home, correct?
So as it appears, yes.
You would agree that there was at least 2 people that were out of that vehicle, correct?
Prior to us walking down,
Prior to you walking down.
I would agree.
Okay. And that then a group of at least 7 of you were seen on that video, correct?
That's how it appears, but as I said, to my knowledge, the only one I knew was with me was Ricky, and I thought there was at least one more of us. Clearly, there was more than that.
And in fact, you walked past and had some interactions with the people that had already gotten out of the vehicle, correct?
I did.
But you don't recall any of that, fair to say?
I didn't say I don't recall any of that. I just don't recall who was actually out of the vehicle.
Well, you told us that you didn't have any interactions with the people in the vehicle at that point, correct?
Other than telling them to get out of there and that they needed to go, not really, no.
Okay. And at this point, they are down in front of Laurel Glen Drive heading towards Farmhouse Lane, right?
What's that?
They were down at this point where we see it on the video, down in front of 36 Laurel Glen Drive by Farmhouse Lane, correct?
Correct.
And that is about 2 football fields or 647 feet away from your house. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate.
And you followed that vehicle all the way down there, right?
When people started to get out, yeah, we walked down there.
Okay. And you told them, "Let's go, you pussies," right?
Correct?
And that's when you say you threw the can of WD-40, right?
I did.
You later picked that can back up, you're now telling us, right?
After it was thrown at me again, I didn't want to leave it in the street in front of my neighbor's houses, so yes, I picked it up.
We didn't see that can getting thrown back at you on this video, did we?
Nope.
And you said after that, you were just walking back to the house, trying to get everyone back inside, right?
I was heading back towards the house with the intent to get everyone back there into the house, yes.
And did you call the police at that point?
No, I did not.
Well, why not?
Because I figured that every time they drove away, I thought that they were going to leave. I guess thinking about it now, knowing that they had the first two opportunities to not come back when they drove away and they didn't, I probably should not have made the assumption that they weren't going to leave, but never in a million years did I ever think that this was going to happen, so I did not call the police.
You didn't call the police and say, "Hey, there's unwanted people at our house and they're throwing stuff at us," because you didn't want the cops to come and find out that there was underage drinking, right?
Can you rephrase that?
Well, you didn't call
repeat
the
that.
cops to report what you are now telling us was a crime at that time, did you?
No, I did not.
And it wasn't because you didn't want the cops to come and find out that there was underage drinking going on, right?
I'm confused what you're asking here. So you're asking me if the reason I didn't call the cops was because there was underage drinking at my house?
Right.
No, the reason I didn't call the cops was because I figured these kids were going to leave at any of the given 3 or 4 times they had the opportunity to. And I never thought in a million years that they were going to come back to my house, trespass on my property, and stab 4 of my friends.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Is there a question pending or?
There was not at that point.
Counsel.
So it wasn't because you were afraid of underage drinking going on at the house. That wasn't the reason that you didn't call the cops.
No.
The reason was that you thought you could handle this yourself.
I thought that they were going to leave any of the 4 times they could have. And like I said, I guess thinking back now, knowing that the first 3 times they could have left when they had the opportunity, they didn't. Maybe I should have handled it different, but again, who would have ever thought that 3 juniors or whatever they were in high school from St. Joe's were going to come back to my house, trespass on my property, and stab 4 of my friends.
Okay. And then you told us that as you're walking back to the house, someone threw a can of WD-40 at you, correct?
Correct, they threw it back at me.
And that the defendant came off the side of the bushes, correct?
Correct.
You told him not to come near you, right?
I did.
And then you used the can of WD-40 to spray it in his direction, right?
I did.
What you actually did was you sprayed it right in his face and his eyes, right?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I was spraying it in his direction. He kept approaching me, so I can't tell you where he was getting sprayed. I aimed the can at him and I sprayed it to use it to distance myself.
And you just saw yourself in that video pass by him while he was standing on the street, not in that vehicle, correct?
Probably, but I'm not sure if that was him or where he was at that time.
And you never told the officers in any of your prior statements about the defendant throwing this WD-40 at you and coming off the side of the bushes, right?
Well, one, I don't know if he threw it at me. I'm not sure which one of them threw it at me, but given where he was when he came out of the bushes, when they threw it back at me, I don't believe it could have been him because he was obviously already down by those bushes for me to have walked by him over there.
So you don't
And it
think
came
was
from
him?
behind me, more towards the car.
So you don't think that it was him throwing that
I
can of WD-40?
don't think he's the one that threw it back at me when I had picked it up to walk back to the house because he was already obviously down in that direction somewhere. for him to have come out behind me.
Back into the house, right?
Correct.
Through the Bilco doors.
Correct.
You walked back first, but you knew that Ricky was still down there at Farmhouse Lane.
I did,
How did you know that he was still down there?
because I walked back by myself, and he's the only one I knew went down there with me, and if he didn't come back with me, he had to still be down there.
Where were these other 5 or 6 people that we saw here in this video?
They must have been down there as well, but I'm not sure.
You don't recall Ricky coming back inside, but you're certain you went back inside.
I 100% went back
Who
inside.
else went back inside with you?
I'm not sure exactly who. There was still a large crowd out in the front, and I kind of was just motioning everybody to get back inside the house.
What was the large group out in the front still doing?
Probably standing there. Honestly, I'm not sure. I was down the street, but as soon as I got back to the house, I had everybody go back inside.
Even the folks that remained in the yard that you just described?
I'm sorry, what's that?
You told us you went back into the house, but that people remained in the front yard. Now you're telling us you had everybody go back inside.
Who remained in the front yard?
You tell me, sir. You're the one who said people remained in the front yard.
I never said anybody remained in the front yard. I said the only people that were still out there was, to my knowledge, Ricky down the street, but I had everybody else around there go back into the house that was still in the
So
front
when you
yard.
went into the basement after coming back from Farmhouse Lane, you're saying there was nobody else in the front yard.
I do not believe so, no.
And then you heard somebody yelling, "They're back," right?
Correct.
And you looked out and you could see that they were in the front yard.
Well, we walked back outside, and upon coming up on the front yard, I was able to see the car in the street with the headlights on, and the defendant and Tyler DeSilva were now trespassing on my property.
Okay. And at that point, you go out into the front yard, correct?
Correct.
How many people were out in the front yard with you?
I believe everybody had followed me back outside. I don't think anyone was gonna leave me to go out there alone. So eventually the entire basement did make its way back outside, and I believe everyone did make their way back out there.
About 30 of you out there in the front yard?
Yeah, including girls too.
And you described your position as being near the cement box and the red bush, right?
Relatively, yes.
And that Tyler DeSilva was in front of you, correct?
Correct.
Near the mailbox.
Towards the mailbox.
And that Mr. Valle was off to your left, by the left of the bush and the right of the cement box, right?
What was that last part? To the left of the what?
To the left of the red bush and to the right of the cement box?
Which way are you looking at that? From the street or from the house?
I believe you described it as being Valle was off to your left,
He was off to my left, correct, with my back to the house, so yes.
so you couldn't really see where Mr. Valle was, right?
He was peripheral to me, so I was able to see him and the couple kids over there and know where their position was, because they weren't that far. They were only maybe 2 steps away from me. But until the fact where Tyler DeSilva shoved me backwards is when they came into my full sight.
And you said that, again, you approached Tyler DeSilva because you knew him and his cousins, right?
Correct.
You said, "Dude, I've known your family and cousins for years," right?
Correct.
At this point, where are the other 30 people?
I wasn't paying attention to that, but I believe some kids were still coming out of the basement at that point, and I believe that there were people behind me and also to the side of me.
Could you see anybody in front of you near the street?
I don't recall anyone being over there. Could there have been? Maybe, but I do not remember.
And it is your recollection that Tyler De Silva told you to go fuck yourself and shoved you backwards, correct?
Correct.
With these other 30 kids behind you,
Correct, which he knew.
which he knew that there were 30 kids?
They have obviously seen the amount of kids there were. The minute we walked out to the car the first time, they proceeded to keep coming back knowing that there was 30 kids or 20 dudes standing there.
Okay. And you said that there were a few kids near Mr. Valle, right?
I believe so, yes.
One of those you knew, and that was Ty Woods.
Correct.
You described him as close to a younger brother for you as it gets, right?
That's right.
And after the shove, you've now got Mr. Valle in your vision, and you say that he went to swing on Ty Woods.
Correct. I watched him take a backswing like he was going to hit him in the back of the head, and Ty had his head turned. I was only 2 steps away. I pretty much stepped into it to get between it and punched him in the face.
Okay? And then after that, you say that Mr. De Silva punched you in the back of your head.
Correct.
How do you know that was Mr. De Silva punched you in the back of your head?
Because nobody else that was at my house was going to be punching me in the back of the head, and he is also the one that just pushed me from the direction where the punches were coming from to the back of my head.
It wasn't because the group of 20 to 30 people was stampeding forwards and people got shoved into one another.
You would have to ask him that, not me. But to what I know, I didn't see any of that going on after, because after I had hit the defendant, that was the last time I ever saw him that entire night, because as I said, when I was getting punched in the back of the head, my focus had turned to Tyler De Silva at this point, who I ended up on the ground with instead.
Now, again, you're telling us today that you swung and hit Mr. Valle in the face that evening, but you didn't tell that to the officers when you spoke to them on the 15th, a couple times, or the 18th, correct?
I guess not. I had told them I was in the fight and there was only 2 kids that I could have been fighting with, so
You didn't tell them that you threw the first punch.
I guess not. At the time, I guess not, no.
And you say that you went to the ground and that Mr. De Silva was on top of you.
Correct.
And that he was swinging and you tied up his arms, right?
Correct.
That you couldn't see much after that, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I was on the ground underneath him, so I couldn't see anything.
And despite having told officers originally that you'd seen Lito with a knife, ultimately what you told us here today is that you didn't see the defendant with a knife, correct?
I had never seen the knife that entire night with my own eyes at all.
And you would agree, and you've described for us, that this fight was a chaotic scene, correct?
It was a chaotic scene, yes.
And there were only 2 kids that got out of the vehicle that were from the St. Joe's party, correct?
Correct. 2 of them got out of the car.
And there were roughly 30 of you, 20 of which you've described as being boys, correct?
Correct, which they knew.
In fact, you continue to tell me that, sir, which they knew. How do you know what they knew?
Because they were in the car when we all came outside. They saw how many of us there were. They drove up and down the street 3 or 4 times and saw that there was that many of us, and even when he came on my property, nobody immediately got physical with them. I was still trying to talk to Tyler De Silva and get him to leave, and they saw with their own eyes how many of us were standing there and decided that he was going to get physical with me. So yeah, they knew how many of us were there.
So it's your recollection that Mr. De Silva is the one who decided to get physical with you?
Correct, he shoved me.
Was Mr. De Silva at any point holding a phone or filming any of this as it was going on?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Did you ever see Mr. Valle with a phone filming or recording anything of what was going on?
Nope.
Did you see, however, a video of the fight itself?
I did.
And that was taken by Tanner Chernowski, correct?
Correct.
And you also identified for us another person who is in that video with a phone in his hand, and that was Ricky Fiola, correct?
Correct.
And was there anybody else that you saw that was filming that evening?
I was on the ground. I didn't see anybody filming or holding a phone until I saw the video after, which I still am not even sure if there was a recording going or if those were just flashlights. But yeah, I didn't see anybody else recording now.
Well, you did see the video, correct?
I did
Recorded
see
by
that
Tanner
video
Chernowski.
Tanner took, correct.
So you know that that one video
I
was
do know
taken,
that that
correct?
video was taken.
And did you tell any of the officers that that video existed?
No, I did not. They actually showed it to me first, and that was my first knowledge of it.
You didn't know about that video until it was shown to you by the officers?
Correct.
Are you friends with Tanner Chernowski
I am.
on his Snapchat stories?
Yeah, I am.
And you weren't aware that he had posted it that very evening?
I was not aware that he had posted it ever, and I had never seen it, so no, I was not.
So, Mr. Rich, is it fair to say that despite a number of opportunities to tell the police as much as what you have recalled today, you didn't actually tell them any of those things regarding the WD-40 can?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Is it fair to say that despite having a number of opportunities, you didn't tell them that you were the person who first punched Mr. Valle?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Is it fair to say that you didn't call the police that night at any point?
Objection, asked and answered.
I'll allow that one.
No, I did not call the police at any point that night.
And you told officers that you had seen the defendant with a knife, despite the fact that now you're telling us you never saw him with a knife, correct?
No, I did not.
I'm gonna, sustained. Strike the last answer, please. Thank you.
Just a moment, Your Honor. Mr. Rich, there were essentially two fights going on in the front yard, were there not?
As far as what I'm aware of, I can only speak for what was going on with me and Tyler De Silva at the time I was on the ground with him because I could not see anything else.
How many people were engaged with Mr. De Silva when you were also on the ground with him?
To my knowledge, just me and him. Do I think people could have thrown a couple shots at him? It's possible, but from what I could see, just me and him were on the ground. But
When you say it's possible that other people could have thrown shots at him, you've viewed the video of the fight, correct?
Correct.
You see people throwing shots at him, correct?
Correct.
It's not just possible, that happened, didn't it?
Yeah, so a couple kids did throw a couple shots in after, but I could not see that from where I was on the ground.
And you would agree that there was a separate fight going on involving Mr. Valle, correct?
I'm not sure.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Can you rejoin?
Briefly?
Sure.
Tyler, council asked you about Tanner and Alex coming to the house. What do you recall about when Tanner and Alex actually showed up in relation to when the Honda Pilot was at your house?
So when we had first went outside, I believe Tanner and Alex had not gotten there yet until after the first time the car drove down the street. I believe the first time when they went down the street, it took them a little longer to come back because they had went all the way to the dead end, or at least out of our view. And as the car went down the street, from what I recall, I believe is when Tanner and Alex got there.
And when Tanner and Alex got there, where were you at that moment?
I was in the front yard.
Now, council asked you a little bit about your statement to police initially. You had indicated that you had seen, well, at least according to your statement, you indicated that you had told the cops that he was flashing a knife. Where did that information come from? Did you actually see that happen?
No, I never saw that.
So why would you tell the cops that a kid named Lito was flashing a knife?
It was something I had overheard that night, and as a 18-year-old kid who's never had to go through something traumatic like that, I didn't know that I couldn't write something in my statement without physically seeing it. So I was brought back in to clarify that. I didn't see that.
So based on the fact that you have 4 of your friends that were stabbed on the front lawn, what was your immediate, what was your intuition? What was your reason for telling the cops what you did at that moment, with regards to what you saw at that moment? Did you have a reason why you didn't recall the WD-40 can or anything like that? Why did you say what you did?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in that time period, like I've been saying, I was an 18-year-old kid who just watched 4 of my best friends get stabbed in my front yard where I grew up at my own house, and having to go through that, I believe that there was just certain things that my mind was putting out of my head, and I was more focused on the events that took place during the actual fight itself.
On a subsequent occasion, did you eventually tell somebody about this WD-40?
I did.
And on a subsequent occasion, did you eventually tell somebody about you throwing a punch at Lito?
I did.
Now, you saw States 44, which is the 36 Royal Blend video, the ring video. That camera, does that camera capture everything that happened with all the interactions down the street? In other words, you see yourself throwing the can at the car? At some point, that camera stops, right?
Correct.
And at some point in time, there are other things that happened that just weren't captured on that camera.
Correct, there was.
So with regards to where the defendant may have been standing at any given moment during that video, and where he was when he was coming out of the woods at you when you had the WD-40 can in your hand, would that have happened before or after the events that we see in States 44?
After.
And with regards to the number of people that were captured on States 44 from your group that go down the street, to the best of your recollection, you only recalled Ricky Field and maybe one other person?
Correct.
And clearly there were more from your group down the street?
Clearly, yeah.
Now, when you came back from down the street, were you by yourself?
I was.
And when you came back from down the street, you indicated that Ricky Fiola was still behind you down the street?
Correct.
So when you got to the front lawn and you were ushering people back in your house, you went down the basement with people that you ushered with back inside your house?
Correct.
But that didn't include Ricky Fiola,
No, it
did
did not.
So if there were at least 7 people down the street, you being one and Ricky being another, there's at least 5 other people that are probably still down the street and coming back down towards the house, right?
Correct.
So when you go back in the house, some of your friends could have still come back and been on the front lawn.
Right.
You just wouldn't know who it was.
Correct.
And when the car came back down the street and you heard they're back, did that come from inside the house or outside the house?
That came from outside, I believe, because somebody had looked out the doors and saw the car pull back up.
But you don't know who said that?
No.
No further question.
Any additional cross?
Just briefly.
You told us that part of the reason that you were unable to recall some of what you told us today was due to the trauma, correct, of this incident?
Correct.
So it wasn't that you wanted to minimize the involvement of your friends on that evening,
What do you mean by that?
as far as why you weren't able to recall these things when you were talking to police officers beforehand. It wasn't because you wanted to minimize the involvement that your friends had.
You mean like try to hide things my friends did?
Correct.
No, I wasn't trying to minimize anything.
You weren't trying to protect your friends from any sort of police investigation.
I mean, no, that's nothing that's inside of my control anyways.
And then you had been asked about telling that to folks on a subsequent occasion about the WD-40 and about throwing the first punch. Do you recall that question?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. The state's attorney asked you that about not telling folks about the WD-40 or about the throwing of the punch, right?
Yeah.
And then he asked you, but you did tell them that on a subsequent occasion, correct?
Correct.
And that subsequent occasion was today, correct?
No.
Nothing further.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. You're all set. You can exit the witness box. Please watch your step. Counsel, I am going to go into the morning recess, all right? Court's going to stand in recess for 15 minutes. Ladies
se molto vadano, che gli altri vadano là. Every day I see people running, jumping, struggling. If you wanna be free, better listen to your heart. Come on and hurry up because the world won't wait. Don't waste no time, you'll miss it if you hesitate. Get online and live your life to the limit. Don't let the people around you ever get you down. Just do your thing and take this party on the town. Dance all night and live your life to the limit. Count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shake your booty, cross the floor. Dance some more. Come on and hurry up because the world won't wait. Don't waste your time, you'll miss it if you hesitate. Dance all night and live your life to the limit. Don't let the people around you ever get you down. Just do your thing and take this party on the town. Dance all night and live your life to the limit. Count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shake your booty, cross the floor. Dance all night and live your life to the limit. Dance all night and live your life to the limit.
Good afternoon. Are we ready to proceed, Council?
We are. Yes, Your Honor.
Bring the clerk in. Thank you. Marshall? Marshall? We're on? Okay, thank you. Welcome back, members of the jury. Counsel, please stipulate to the return of our jury.
State will stipulate, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Let's stipulate, Your Honor.
All right, very good. State, please call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. State will call Aiden King to the stand.
Thank you. Hi there. If you could step into the witness box, Madam Clerk is going to put you under oath. Okay, she's right here to my right. Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear, solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you have here concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your full name, spelling your last name,
Aiden King, K-I-N-G,
and please state your address.
40 Wade.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Do me a favor, Aiden. Get close to the microphone and speak up. Okay.
All right.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You a little nervous to be here?
Yeah.
Aiden, how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
And do you work?
I do.
What do you do?
I work at a dog daycare in Shelton.
And how long have you been doing that for?
A little over a year, almost 2 years now.
And have you and I met on a prior occasion?
Yes.
And why did we meet?
For the trial.
And I want to direct your attention to May 14th of 2022. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
And why do you recall that day?
It was a traumatic day.
Now, I want to direct your attention to this States 9. You know whose house that is?
Yes, I do.
Whose house is that?
Tyler Rich.
And how do you know Tyler Rich?
He's a longtime friend of mine. Grew up playing football together, high school, and then we got really close, so I've known him for a little while.
Show you. States 54. Do you know who this is?
Yes.
Who is that?
Phase on to you.
How do you know Faye's on to you?
Same thing. Grew up middle school, football, high school.
States 56. You know who that is?
Yes.
Who is that?
Ryan Hines.
How do you know Ryan Hines?
High school football.
States 55. You know who that is?
Yes.
Who is that?
Tommy Connery.
How do you know Tommy?
Went to school with him, middle school, high school.
Finally, States 57. You know who this is?
Yes.
Who is that?
Jimmy McGrath.
How do you know Jimmy?
Met him through Rosie, who I'm friends with. He's just become a good friend of mine. Through
Who's Rosie?
years. Rosie's his sister. Fairfield Prep.
Faison, Tommy, and Ryan. Did you go to school with those individuals?
Yes.
And on May 14th of 2022, how old were you back then?
I was 17.
And what, were you in school?
Yes.
And where did you go to school?
Shelton High.
And you went to school with Tommy, Ryan, and Faison?
Yes.
Did you go to school with Tyler Rich?
Yes.
Did you go to school with Ricky Fiola?
Yes.
How about Sal Perry?
Yes.
How about Mike Samperi?
No.
Do you know Mike Samperi?
Yes.
How do you know?
Met him through Tyler as well. He just come around sometimes. Good friend.
How about Alex Bernstein?
I met him before, yes. But did I go to school with him?
Yes.
No.
When did you meet him?
I met him one time prior, and then at Tyler's, I met him.
On that night?
Yes.
How about Charlie Connery? Do you know Charlie?
Yes.
How do you know Charlie?
School. High school.
How about Jacob Villalobos?
Yes.
How about Matt Lakovich?
Yes.
How do you know them?
All high school, middle school.
Now, on May 14th of 22, did you have an occasion to go to Tyler Rich's house?
Yes.
Why?
He was having a party.
Okay, and what kind of party was it?
Just the normal thing. Listening to music, drinking, hanging out with a bunch of guy friends, some girls.
And were you drinking that night?
Yes.
And what were you drinking?
Bud Light,
How many beers did you have that night?
5 to 7.
And what time would you say you got to Tyler Rich's house that night?
Around 8 o'clock.
And did you start drinking before you got to Tyler Rich's house or when you got there?
When I got there.
And when you were there, do you know whether or not the individuals we just spoke about were present at Tyler Rich's house that night?
They were.
And when you were there with those individuals, what were you doing, hanging out?
Hanging out, listening to music, talking, drinking.
Are you familiar with Griffin Marcinzik?
Yes.
And how are you familiar with Griffin?
High school.
And at some point in time in the night, did Ryan Hines and Griffin Marcinzik show up?
Yes,
And did you have a conversation with them when they showed up?
briefly.
And not telling us what they said, but after that conversation, were you informed of an incident that happened on Lazy Brook Road prior
I
to
was.
arriving?
I was.
And shortly after having that conversation with them, did something happen where individuals showed up to Tyler Rich's house?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened? How were you made aware of that?
There were people outside, and they came inside and told people who were in the basement that there was a group of kids in a car outside who we don't know why they were there and who they were.
And when you had got this information, did you exit the house?
Yes.
And where did you exit the house?
I exited through, so there's cellar doors, and I came up them, they're on the side of the house, and proceeded to walk outside towards the driveway.
So I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 5. Can you see in State's Exhibit 5 where the cellar doors would be?
They would be right in that little space you can see in the trees, a little off to the right. Yeah, right around there.
Okay. And you came out this way?
Yes.
And when you came out this way, what did you proceed to do?
I proceeded to walk down the driveway.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 49. When you walked down the driveway, how did you walk? If you could describe it in State's 49.
In between where those, like the blue truck and the white truck, it was kind of that path.
Right. And when the individual showed up, where did you observe did they come in a car?
Yes.
What kind of car was it?
I don't recall.
Okay. And when they came, well, you don't remember what was it a four-door car? Do you remember?
It was a four-door car. Yeah.
Now, when they came, do you recall, can you tell us in this State's 49 where, if at all, the car was stopped?
On the right side of the street, just about in front of the driveway, but also near like across the street's house is like little sidewalk.
So right around this area?
Yes.
And when you came out of the house, how many people were with you, if you can recall?
Around 10 to 15.
And do you know whether or not Tyler Rich was with you?
He was.
Do you recall anybody else who was with you at the time?
I do not.
When you came out of the house, what time of day was it?
It was nighttime. Yeah.
Was it pitch black out?
No, there was lights surrounding, so you could see, but it was dark out.
You could notice people in front of you?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you approach the car?
Yes.
And when you approached the car, how was the car facing? So if we're looking at 49, we can agree this house here is Tyler Rich's house?
Yes.
This would be Adams Road.
Yes.
The car, the street that I'm pointing to, that's the lower left-hand corner of the picture. And this is Royal Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Which way was the car facing, do you recall? Was it facing towards Farmhouse, which is down here?
It was facing towards farmhouse.
And when did you approach the car?
Yes.
What side of the car did you approach?
I approached the rear side behind the passenger. I mean, the driver.
So if this is the car here, and this is the driver's side here, you're somewhere over here, but maybe near the rear passenger side?
Yes, behind the
Behind
driver.
the driver?
Yep.
Okay. Now, when you approached that side of the vehicle, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened at that point?
The window was rolled down, and I looked inside, and I saw Lito, Mackenzie, and Tyler De Silva. Those are the only ones I knew of in the car that I could recognize, and proceeded to have conversation.
Do you recall whether or not there were any other people in the car at that point?
There were others, yes.
Did you recognize any of
I
them?
did not.
Now, you said that you recognized Tyler De Silva?
Yes.
How do you know Tyler De Silva?
I've seen him before, just around at other parties from other high schools.
And Mackenzie, who's Mackenzie?
She is someone who went to St. Joe's, but before St. Joe's, went to middle school and with her. So
You grew up with her?
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
What's her last name?
Trafficancy.
And you said Lido.
Yes,
Does Lido have a different name?
he does.
What is his name?
His real name's Raul.
And is that individual present in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
And can you please describe what he's wearing?
He's wearing a blue suit, black tie, white undershirt.
Can you please point him out for the record?
He's right there.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in this case?
Court will allow the record to reflect that. Thank you.
Now, when you said that you had a conversation with Mackenzie, Tyler, and Lito?
It was Lito and Mackenzie that I was talking to.
So you were talking to where was Lito seated in the car?
Behind the driver's side,
And where was Mackenzie seated?
next to him on the right side of him.
And you had a conversation with the two of them?
Yes,
Did you have a particular conversation with the defendant?
yes.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what happened, what was said?
So there was just a lot of back and forth going on.
When you say back and forth, what does that mean?
Like, people were yelling outside, for them to leave, but I was having a direct conversation with him, talking normally at first, but then he proceeded to threaten to smash a bottle on someone's head if they didn't back away from the car.
And after the defendant said he would smash a bottle on somebody's head if they didn't back away from the car, what if anything happened next?
After that, I just said, no, don't do that. And then I backed away. I walked back to the end of the driveway.
Did you ever, during your conversation with the defendant, ever tell the defendant or anybody else in that car to leave?
Yes,
How many times?
like 3 to 4 times.
And at some point in time during the interaction with the defendant, after you backed away, what, if anything, did you observe?
After I backed away, just more screaming and yelling from groups of people. And then the car just proceeded to take off down the street.
And when the car took off down the street, what did you observe about how the car took off?
Driving crazy.
Prior to the car leaving the area at that time, did anybody kick or shake the car? Do you recall any of
Yes,
that?
there was people putting hands on the car.
Now, was that your group of friends or the people in the car?
It was my group of friends.
And when that happened, the car took off?
Yes,
And where did it go? Did it go towards Farmhouse or towards Adams?
towards farmhouse.
And when it went down towards Farmhouse, where were you situated in the street or in the area when you observed that?
I was at the end of the driveway.
And you looked down towards Farmhouse?
Yes,
And when you looked down towards Farmhouse, what did you observe?
I observed the car stop and people proceed to get out of the car.
Was that, did that happen more than once? Did the car drive down and back, or did it just drive down once?
They drove down and back.
Okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
So they drove down the street. Were you outside the entire time?
Yes,
Did the car come back?
yes.
When the car came back, what happened?
Just more driving crazy. They turned around and then drove back towards the farmhouse again.
So when they turned around, did they turn around somewhere in the Adams Drive area?
Yes,
And when they drove back down, did you recall people throwing things at the car at this point?
I do not recall.
When they drove back down the street, how many times would you say they drove up and down the street, if you can recall?
About 3 times.
And when they drove up and down the street 3 times, at some point in time, did they stop driving up and down the street?
Yes.
And when they stopped, where did they, if you can tell from State's Exhibit 49, where did the car stop? Did it stop, where on the street?
Towards the farmhouse, there's a light at the end of the road, kind of, and it was around that light post.
So if I point my finger around here,
Yes, that area.
the record can reflect I'm pointing to an area to the north, or the top right-hand corner where there appears to be a light pole near the corner, near the intersection of Farmhouse and Adams. All right, and Laurel Glen, excuse me.
The court will allow the record to reflect that. Thank you.
And that's where you observed the car park?
Yes.
When the car parked down the street at that point in time, what did you do?
A group of us proceeded to walk down to the street, to the car.
Do you know who was with you when you walked down the street?
Tyler Rich, Ricky Fiola, other than that, I do not recall.
And when you walked down the street, how far would you say you walked down the street?
I'd say to that first light post, just about,
So somewhere.
the end of the tree line on the left. And, yeah, that area.
I make, your record will reflect, there's a light post you walked up to?
Yes.
Where
Can I get up?
Use it?
Oh, just a pointer. Right around here.
So this area.
Yes.
The record can reflect, Your Honor, on States 1, it's the area on the right side of Laurel Glen, just before 36 Laurel Glen, there's a wooded area again where the witnesses identified you walked up to.
All right, so noted.
So when you walked up to that area, Did you have any weapons on you at that point?
No.
And when you walked up to that area, what if anything, did you observe at that point?
But I saw two people get out the car, my group of friends running up to approach them, and then just continued with more yelling back and forth, and that was it.
How long would you say you were observing what was going on from that vantage point?
3 minutes, 4 minutes.
And when you were observing what was going on down the street at that point, you indicated there's some light poles. Is there any lighting down the end of the street?
Yes,
And were you able to observe people interacting?
yes.
When you went down the street and you observed people interacting, did you observe anybody from your group get into any physical altercation with the people from the car?
No,
Do you know whether or not Tyler Rich, Ricky Fiola, or anybody else you were with had any weapons on them?
I do not recall.
Now, after about 3 or 4 minutes, what did you do?
I proceeded to go back inside the house because Tyler was telling people to go back inside, so I listened and went back inside the house.
So you turned around and walked back to Tyler's house?
Yes.
Okay. And when you turned around and walked back to Tyler's house, how did you get back inside the house?
I kind of cut in front of these bushes, the red bushes, cut in front of them and proceeded to go back the way I left, through back the other doors.
So in Stage 49, there's 2 red bushes on the right side of the Rich property. You walked in front of these?
Yes,
And did you walk up the cobblestone driveway and back in behind the black truck?
behind the black truck.
Okay, so if the record can reflect, the path is in front of these 2 red bushes, up the side of the driver's side of the black truck, and behind the black truck towards which will be the right side of the house.
All right, the record will reflect. Thank you.
And when you went back into Tyler's house at that point in time, what did you do when you went downstairs?
I went back inside, was talking to friends normally, and then was getting ready to leave. I was talking to my friend Jeremy. He was going to bring us all home.
Who's Jeremy?
Jeremy Oko.
Okay, and Jeremy Oko drove you to Tyler Rich's house?
No.
Okay, but he was gonna give you a ride home?
Yes.
Why was he gonna give you a ride home?
Because he was sober, and we wanted to leave because we weren't really having fun anymore, so it was time to go home.
And at some point in time, did you end up leaving the house?
Yes.
All right. When did you end up leaving the house?
After I came outside and saw friends on the floor screaming, and I didn't know what was happening. I came out to a fight.
All right, let's back up. So at some point in time, you leave the house and you witness a fight?
I leave the house and I witness a group of people, a lot of screaming, and people on the floor, so yes.
Okay. When you were inside the house, were you made aware that individuals were on the front lawn?
No, I was not.
Okay, tell us about how you came to come outside of Tyler Rich's house and witness what you just indicated.
So I came out the same way I was going back and forth, and I couldn't see anything until I got to right in front of where that black truck is in the picture. And then that's when I heard all the yelling and screaming and people running to cars. And at the time, it looked like there was people fighting, but I would later find out that it was done already, like the fight was over, and there was just my friends stabbed on the ground.
So, just so we're clear, at that point where you came out of 43 Laurel Glen, you thought a fight was going on,
Yes,
but in reality, the fight had already ended?
yes,
So when you walked out of 43 Laurel Glen, you came out towards the black truck here?
yes,
Were you on the passenger side or the driver's side?
the driver's side.
And where in States 49 were you standing?
That piece of like cement or whatever right there, like right in front of the truck, that's on the grass. That's where I stopped and that's when I saw everything.
So I'm going to show you States 4. You see the cement block here?
Yes,
Okay. You were standing somewhere around here?
yes.
Now, when you were standing there, what did you observe at that moment in time?
Just a lot of screaming, yelling, people surrounding people who were on the floor. I couldn't tell who it was at the time, but then I saw individuals run to a car, the car speed off, and then I turned back around, and that's when I realized I saw blood. I saw people crying, screaming, and saying that people had been stabbed.
All right, what did you observe about, who did you observe bleeding?
Jerry McGrath
And
and Faison Teal.
can you tell us in this exhibit here, where you observed Jimmy at the moment?
Kind of near this bush right here, the front one, the red bush, and that like, but like.
This area here?
Yes, in that area.
This is the debris area here where there's dirt on the ground?
Yes.
Okay, so to the record reflect to the left of the red bush here, where there appears to be some items on the front.
Record can so reflect.
And what did you observe about Jimmy when you noticed him?
There was just a lot of people around him. I couldn't really see. I didn't get like up close to him, but I saw his face. I saw people around him, trying to help. And then I just kept looking around and seeing more people on the floor, more people stabbed.
Who else did you see that was stabbed?
Tommy Connery
Okay.
and Faison Teal I saw.
What did you notice about Tommy Connery?
He was holding his leg, and then I just saw blood all over his leg.
And what about Faison Teal? What did you notice about him?
His arm was cut.
And when you noticed that your friends were stabbed at this point, what, if anything, did you do?
People were just screaming to call the police. I know multiple people were at one time, but I had someone's phone and I called the police. Tried to explain what happened as best as I could, gave them the address of the location, and then hung up. They eventually arrived with the ambulance, and they brought people who needed care away, and the cops stayed and asked if anybody wanted to write down statements.
And did you, in fact, give a statement at some point in time?
Yes, I did.
And that night at Tyler Rich's house, how many people, were there a lot of people at his house?
There was a good amount of people, yes.
But did you witness how many of those people were actually involved in the fight?
I did not.
Did you observe any of your friends in the aftermath of the fight? Did you observe any of them, did any of them have any weapons on them at that point?
No, not that I observed.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Attorney Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. King.
Good afternoon.
We've never met before.
No.
If you can, just keep your voice up. It's
Yep, sorry.
to hear. We've got fans going. The acoustics are bad. I don't think we'll be long. You told us that you knew most of the people at the party that night, correct?
Yes.
And how many people would you say were there at the party?
30 to 40.
You told us that you'd had yourself 5 to 7 Bud Lights.
Yes.
And that was from the time that you arrived there around 8 o'clock until the time that you left there sometime around midnight?
Yes.
Do you think you stopped drinking earlier than when you left?
Yes.
What time do you think you stopped drinking?
Maybe 10:30, 11.
So you think you had those 5 to 7 beers in the course of 2.5 to 3 hours?
Yes.
Was that pretty much the way folks were drinking that night?
Not everybody,
Okay.
but some.
Had you brought those Bud Lights yourself?
Yes.
And was there alcohol that was being provided at the party?
No.
This was a BYOB party, so to speak?
Yes.
And you yourself were 17 at the time?
Yes.
Okay. How did you come into possession of that
I
alcohol?
do not recall.
Was there anybody that was over 21 at the party?
I do not recall.
There were some older folks that had already graduated, correct?
Yes.
Some folks that were as old as 20, perhaps?
Yes.
And did you did you notice other people drinking at the same rate that you were?
Yes.
Were there any drinking games being played?
No.
No beer pong going on?
Nope.
Did you notice any adults?
No.
This was a fairly regular occasion to get together at the Rich's house and party
Yes.
in this same fashion.
Yes.
You told us that you knew Griffin Marcinzik.
Yes.
Were you a part of the basketball group chat?
No.
Were you made aware that there was a basketball group chat that was going on?
I wasn't aware.
and that there was some taunting and the sharing of the 43 Laurel Glen Drive address on that?
I was made aware of it, yes.
And you were expecting at some point that perhaps somebody might show up in response to that?
Yes.
I object based on the fact that he said he wasn't aware of the group chat. His knowledge is after the fact, so how would he know at the time?
Okay, I believe he's answering the questions, so he appeared to have knowledge. I'm going to overrule your objection.
You weren't a part of that basketball group chat, correct?
No.
But you were aware that that was going on?
I was made aware after.
Made aware after, okay. When you say after, you didn't know that Griffin Marcinzik was texting people that evening?
No, I did not.
How close a friend would you describe Griffin Marcinzik?
We're not extremely close, but I've hung out with him before. He also played football, so I've talked to him outside in school for a while, so he's a good friend.
And you learned from he and Mr. Hines that there had been some sort of altercation earlier at 5 Lazy Brook, right?
Yes.
And you're saying that you didn't know at that time that they were communicating with people that they believed had been involved in that altercation? They didn't explain to you that they were sending out the address for people to come there?
I did not know.
Do you know Tanner Chernowski?
I do.
How do you know Tanner Chernowski?
High school, middle school, I also played football with him when I was younger as well.
Okay. And you told us that you had met Alex Burnson once prior to this?
Yes.
What was the nature of that meeting that you had prior to?
The first one?
Yes.
Just hanging out with Tanner, he brought him along. We were just driving around talking. It was just like a mutual thing.
So you knew Alex through Tanner, is that fair to say?
Yes.
And you said that people were outside, they came inside and they said, hey, this car just showed up, right?
Yes.
Did that surprise anybody there?
Kind of.
When you say kind of, did some folks seem to be aware that and expecting that?
Some did, yes.
And was there a fast rush for everybody to go outside and confront these folks?
For some, yes.
Did all 30 to 40 folks there empty out of the basement?
Not initially, no.
Eventually, did they all empty out of the basement?
Yes.
And
Just
you
about.
described that you walked down the driveway, right? Mm-hmm. Did you walk down the driveway casually and leisurely, or was it a quick walk, or was it even a run?
It was a quick walk.
Quick walk. Were others side by side with you, shoulder to shoulder?
Yes.
How many people?
About 10 to 15.
Others behind you?
Yes, behind me.
Others in front of you, or were you leading?
I was kind of in the front, yeah.
And who did you expect to find in that vehicle?
I just knew about Mackenzie. I didn't know who else she was with.
When you went out to that vehicle, were you expecting this to be anybody that you had heard about already?
Yes, once I was made aware.
And you were made aware as soon as Ryan Hines and Griffin Marcinzik showed up, is that fair to say?
A little bit after.
Okay. But before the car arrived, correct?
Just about when they did, yes.
And you described that the car parked across the street on the other side of Laurel Glen Drive, right?
Yes.
And this 30 or 40 of you go outside and eventually you've surrounded this vehicle, correct?
Not all 30 to 40, but a group, yes.
How large would you describe that group as?
The group that surrounded the car was about 10 to 15 people.
10 to 15?
Yes.
And what were the other 15 to 25 folks doing?
Either minding their business in the background or screaming.
Okay. Fair to say you weren't really aware of exactly what they were doing?
The people behind me, no, I was not aware what they were doing.
And at some point you described going up to the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
The rear passenger door, correct?
Yes.
And at some point that window comes down, right?
Mhm.
And you
Yes.
can see inside Raul Valle, correct?
Yes.
Mackenzie Traficante?
Yes.
And Tyler De Silva, correct?
Yes.
And did they display any weapons to you?
No.
And in fact, you knew Mr. Valle, correct?
Yes.
You'd seen him before and been friendly with him, correct?
Yes.
And he wasn't threatening you in any way when he rolled down the window, was he?
Not me personally.
No. And in fact, he was having a conversation with you, was he not?
He was.
And the nature of that conversation was, what's going on here, right?
Yes.
And you said, this doesn't have anything to do with you, right?
Correct.
And you say that then Mr. Valle threatened that if people didn't get away from the car, he was going to smash a bottle?
Yes.
But you didn't see him with a bottle, did you?
I did not.
Did you see him with anything in his hands?
No.
And you described Ms. Traficante as also being in the back seat.
Yes.
In fact, she was sitting on Mr. Valle's lap, correct?
Yes.
Now, when that vehicle first arrived, showing you State's Exhibit 30. Is that a vehicle that you saw that night, Mr. King?
Yes,
That's the vehicle that arrived with the St. Joe's kids in it?
yes,
And you knew 3 of the people in that car, correct?
yes.
When that vehicle arrived, it did not have this shattered glass on the windshield in front of the passenger side, did it?
No,
Did you ever hear any glass shatter that evening?
I did not.
Do you know a Jack Snyder?
I had heard of him, but I never met him.
Never met him yourself.
Yes,
You said you knew Tyler De Silva from other parties, correct?
I've met him before one time, yeah.
And you knew Ms. Trafficante from middle school, right?
Yes, grew up with her.
And how did you know Mr. Valle?
From parties at like St. Joe's people's houses.
You yourself were not at the earlier party at 5 Lazy Brook, correct?
No,
You said that after you had this conversation with Mr. Valle, where he didn't threaten you, but you claim he did threaten to smash a bottle if people didn't back away, you said you walked up the driveway, right?
I walked back to the end of the driveway, yes.
Did anybody else walk back up the driveway with you?
Not that I remember.
The rest of the people were surrounding the car at this point.
There were still people surrounding the car, yes.
Surrounding the vehicle on all sides, correct?
Just about.
If somebody was in that vehicle and they wanted to back up or drive forward, they might have hit somebody, right?
Yes,
Did you see somebody reach through the front passenger window and punch the driver? I'm sorry, through the front driver's window and punch the driver?
I did not see anything like that.
Were people blocking your view of the front driver's side?
Yes,
And again, at this point, do you think it's still 10 to 15 people surrounding the car, or had it grown larger at that point?
I think it stayed the same, if not less.
You think less, even though you're the only one that walked back?
Well,
the driveway?
I backed away, but I'm saying it could have been less, I don't know.
When you backed away and walked up the driveway, how far up the driveway did you get?
I just stayed, I walked up back to the end of the driveway.
So you crossed the street?
Yeah, basically across the street, yeah.
You're standing at the end of the driveway, near the mailbox?
Yes, a little to the left of it.
Okay. Anybody else in the driveway with you at that point?
Yes,
How many people?
10 people.
Who were they?
I don't recall.
Do you recall any of them?
No,
So you think it was 10 people, but you can't tell us who any of them were.
I can't tell you any of them more.
But you knew everybody at that party except for the kids in the St. Joe's car.
Yes,
At some point, you heard more screaming and yelling, right?
yes,
And in fact, you saw people from the Shelton High kids start to touch that vehicle, right?
yes,
In fact, they didn't just touch the vehicle, they started rocking the vehicle, right?
yes,
Shaking the vehicle, right?
yes,
You could see physically the car moving, right?
yes,
Could you hear it being pounded on?
yes.
Could you also see anybody throw glass bottles?
I did not see anything like that.
At some point, you did see the Shelton High kids start to throw things at the vehicle, correct?
I did not see anything being thrown,
Ever?
ever, no.
Okay. Well, you described for us that you observed the car take off and it was driving crazy, right?
Yes,
Did you see Tyler Rich at that point?
yes,
Where was he?
kind of in the street still. Well, walking back towards the driveway.
Walking back towards the driveway?
Yes,
And you said that the car took off driving crazy, and at the end of the driveway where you were standing, you observed the car stop, correct?
after driving back and forth.
Okay. And you observed the car stop and people got out, right?
Yes,
And that was down in front of that house close to the corner of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Lane, correct?
yes.
36 Laurel Glen Drive?
If that's the address, I don't know the address,
Not
but
sure of the address. Okay. You were still standing in the driveway at that point?
yes,
And you could see that some people got out of the car, right?
once they got out, yes, and then a group of us walked towards the car.
Okay. Who were the people that had gotten out of that vehicle?
I couldn't tell at the time because I was so far away still, but as I got closer, I could tell it was Tyler De Silva and Lido.
And Ms. Traficante as well?
Yes,
3 people got out of the vehicle?
3 people, but I only saw 2 at first, yes.
And you described that yourself, Tyler Rich, and Ricky Fiola walked down the street towards where you saw these people get out of the vehicle, correct?
Yes,
And that was towards the light post that was just past that house, correct?
yes,
And I think you pointed out on State's Exhibit 1 there behind you, that was the wooded area just before Laurel Glen Drive, 36 Laurel Glen Drive. Is that correct?
yes.
Did you speak with anybody as you walked down there towards that group?
My friends I was speaking to on the way down there, yes.
Did you get close enough to identify Tyler De Silva, Raul Valle, and Mackenzie Traficante?
Yes, I could see their faces.
You could see their faces. Did you say anything to them?
Just get out of here, leave.
How close do you think you were when you said this?
10 feet, 15 feet away.
Okay, so you
maybe
got
more.
10 to 15 feet away from them?
Yes,
You named Tyler Rich, you named Ricky Fiola. You said that others were with you as well.
yes.
How many others?
There was about 10 of us total.
So you think another 7?
Yes.
You didn't see any of them throwing anything?
No, I did not.
You didn't see Mr. Valle approach, first off, withdrawn. When you were walking down, and we can use Exhibit 1 here, if you would, point out to me which side of the street you saw Mr. Valle and Mr. De Silva on.
They were on the right side of the street, so like over here, it's next to the light pole. They were on the right side of the road.
On the side opposite from Mr. Rich's house
Yes,
and the street.
they were in the middle on the side.
You think that they were in the middle on the side closer to that house there?
Yes,
On the opposite side of the street from Mr.
Yes.
Rich's house?
yes,
And you don't recall saying anything to them other than get out of here, leave?
yeah.
Did you see any weapons in any of their hands?
No, I did not.
Did they utter any threats towards your group?
Not that I heard.
Did you see any of your group interact with those people?
Just more talking, but nothing physical.
Did you see Mr. Valle come out of the bushes and approach Mr. Rich?
I did not.
Did you see anybody come out of the bushes and approach Mr. Rich?
No, I was inside.
You were inside at what point?
After, in the middle of them all talking, Tyler said, "Get back to the house." So I proceeded to leave and go back to the house, and that's when I was inside talking. I didn't know what was happening outside after that.
Were you walking with Mr. Rich?
No, I was not. I was in front of him. I was one of the first to get back to the house.
And were you walking with anybody else?
I was walking with 2, 3 people.
Who were they?
I don't recall.
When you got back to the house, you went back into the basement
Yes.
through those same Bilco doors?
Yeah.
And you were in there, you said maybe for 3 or 4 minutes, is that fair to say?
No longer. A little bit longer than that.
Were you doing any more drinking while you were inside the house?
No.
Who else was with you inside the house?
It was a group of people. There was more than I can identify.
Can you recall anybody that was with you?
Jeremy Oko,
And how do you know Jeremy Oko?
longtime friend, middle school, high school, football.
Also went to Shelton High?
Yes.
He didn't give you a ride there that night, but he was
No.
going to give you the ride home.
Yes.
At some point, you left the house and you came outside, right?
Yes.
And you went into the front yard, right?
Yes.
And you said you saw your friends on the floor, you thought they were fighting.
Yes.
How many people did you see in the yard at that point?
20 or more.
Did you see Mr. Valle?
I did not. I saw people run away. I couldn't identify a face.
You say you saw people run away,
Like towards the car that they came from.
so you could still see the car at that point?
Yes.
And at that point, you were by the black truck that we saw in the
Yes.
exhibit that you described? And at no point in that evening did you see a knife, correct?
No, I did not.
Not when you were at the vehicle?
No.
Not when you were down at Farmhouse Lane?
No.
Not when you came out into the yard later, correct?
Correct.
You also did not see anybody throwing anything at the vehicle, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, initially, you told the cops that there was no drinking going on at the party, correct?
Yes.
And you did that because you didn't want to get in trouble, right?
Yes.
You didn't want your friends to get in trouble, right?
Yes.
And in fact, when did you first learn that there was a video of all of this?
I really can't recall when I was made aware.
But you did tell the cops about that almost a week later, right?
Yes.
And you told them that Tyler Rich and Tanner Chernowski had videos, right?
Yes. I was told, this is what I was telling what I was told. I knew about the video from Tanner.
You knew that Tanner had a video.
Yes, I was made aware after.
Are you friends, or can you see his Snapchat stories
Right now, yes.
at the time?
At the time, could I? Yes.
And did you see that he had in fact posted one of those videos that very evening?
I did not. I was not on my phone.
Have you since seen a video that he posted that evening?
That was posted. Have I seen the video? Yes, I've seen the video.
You weren't outside, however, when that video was taken.
No, I was not outside.
Did you see Enrique or Ricky Fiola that evening taking a video?
I did not.
Did you see him with his phone out and a light on from that phone?
At some point, yes, there was lights on, but a lot of people had lights on their phones.
How many people did you see with their phones out and the lights on?
Throughout the night, 10 people.
And after this, you told us that folks started talking with one another about what they had seen, correct?
Mhm.
And some folks were telling you that they had seen the fight, but you yourself had not seen the fight. Is that fair?
Yes.
In your initial statement that you gave on May 15th, you said all that you saw was people fighting and kids getting thrown around, right?
Yes.
About 9 days later, on the 24th, you came in and you gave more information than that initial statement, right?
Yes.
That was after you'd come to learn that there was a video that captured this, correct?
Yes.
And just to be certain about this, you didn't see any of the fight that occurred in the front yard
No, I did not see any of it.
because you were in the basement.
I was in the basement.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, so
One quick question.
if you're sure, if your redirect is going to be very quick, we'll do that.
With regards to the video, did you ever see that video on Snapchat, or did you see it
I just saw it like sent to me,
sent to you like in a text message?
Snapchat, but like not on like a story.
And it wasn't, was it sent to you that night or
No, at a later time.
at a later time?
Yes.
No further questions.
Anything further?
Did you tell the cops that you had that video sent to you?
Not that I recall.
Nothing further.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. So you're all, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Please watch your step as you exit the witness box, okay? All right, so it's just about 1 o'clock. We are going to go into our lunch hour. So I am going to excuse you from lunch, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I am going to remind you of your obligation of your oaths as jurors, your juror conduct, and also the instructions that I've given, not just once, but I believe I've repeated them. So please continue to abide by those instructions and have a nice lunch. And we'll pick evidence back up today at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Court stands in recess until 2.
All rise. Report to lunch recess.